Hey YouTube, Kiratwig here, bringing you guys another one of my video specials. Today we'll be taking a look at all of my Yu-Gi-Oh deck collection. Got a few requests to do this video a while back. Some people just wanted to see what all decks I have on me, which ones I've kept, which ones, I don't mind parting with. So we'll just go ahead, go through all the decks I currently own, show you guys why I keep them, short little description about the deck, like why I made it and so on. So I have all the deck boxes here, so let's just go ahead and grab one, open it up, and then we'll throw it from the left side of me to the right. First up, the Yang Zing deck. Mostly made this deck because of hype. People said Yang Zings were going to be a lot of fun. The whole synchro concept coming back was also another reason why I made it. Still working to get the shadows in that deck, but other than that, it is a fun deck to use. Not too competitive as I'd like it to be, but other than that, it's a lot of fun. Next up we have the Batteryman deck. Just recently showed this deck off. Would like to add the artifacts into it, but I saw a lot of people working on the deck after Duelist Alliance came out. So I thought, maybe if I give it a shot. It is a lot of fun using the whole Monarch Stormforth with Battery Charger to swarm the field. In the next deck box we have the Chespin deck box. We have my Gimmick Puppet deck. Once again, another fun deck. I also tend to keep extra deck cards that, match up with the deck, with that deck. I don't use number 40s, 15s, or 88 in any other deck. So mostly I just move around the generic stuff from deck to deck. But Gimmick Puppets, I built them because at first I had the deck built, but I didn't have Dreary Doll and whatnot in the deck. Tried to make it work as best as I can, and I held on to it until hoping that Dreary Doll and Gimmick Puppet Magnet Doll would one day come out, and they did, and I've enjoyed using the deck a lot ever since. Next up we have Gem Knights. I was a big fan of the Dual Terminal and the Hidden Arsenal collection in general, so Gem Knights along with Gishis and Gustos and Lavals were decks that I enjoyed making and using copious amounts of times, and Gem Knights are no exception. Am looking forward to the support they're getting out of Secrets of Eternity. Can't wait to utilize them in the deck. So that'll be a lot of fun. Not so sure what's the best way to transition from deck to deck, so just going to go by quickly through each one. Next up we have my Dustin deck. Once Dustin's finished, I think it was Primal Origins where they got their last support, I thought, wouldn't it be fun just to try my attempt at a trolley version of this deck? And when people play this deck, they do get pretty ticked off every time they go up against it. When I swarm their side of the field and they really can't do anything with their Dustins, it's pretty hilarious in my opinion. Like I said, I'm just grabbing decks at random that I have on the left side of me. This is my Apex Avion Pendulum Deck. You can see it has the Odd Eyes, the Time Gazers, and the Stargazers in it. The whole deck is meant to get off Apex Avion, getting at most 3 on the field, and just negating everything your opponent can do. I saw a couple deck profiles of it on YouTube, and it looked like a lot of fun, and it is. If you could successfully get off the Pendulum Summon, it really locks your opponent down. In this deck box, we have my Morphtronic Deck. Probably one of my favorite decks during the 5Ds era. The Morphtronics, just the whole concept of attack mode and defense, seemed like a lot of fun to me. And like I said with the previous decks, Gem Knights, we're getting more support for them in Secret Eternities, so maybe the smartphone will be that extra boost that the deck needs. In the white deck box, we have my Super Heavy Samurais, along with the Big Batteryman. I recently gave a deck profile on this deck. I think we're getting synchro support later on for this deck, but who knows if I'll have this deck or not by then. I'm always trading decks to friends and whatnot, so this might be one of these decks that I'll have to recollect later on if I hope to make an updated version. Let's keep going. We got a couple double deck boxes here, so we'll see what we have in these. First up, my Naturia deck. This one is probably going to be with me even when I'm out of Yu-Gi-Oh! This was just a deck that I had since the beginning. Probably a deck I wouldn't get rid of. It's a lot of fun, the lockdown process, and Naturias are kind of my thing, so I always have to hold on to that deck. And here we have Gishis. Gishis is probably one of my most worked on decks. I use it a lot at locals, including just for fun. A lot of people don't, expect Gishis to be pretty competitive, but I like to think that I did a good job with the Zeal version of the deck. Won a few tournaments with it. Got a lot of cool prizes as well, which is why I keep these two in this deck box. Naturia's my special deck, and my Gishki deck, the one I use a lot, so I'll always keep this one on me. Up next in the Stargazer or Time Twinkle Star deck box, I have my Madolche deck. Keep cute with cute. This is probably one of my meta decks that I use a lot, along with Shaddolls. Shaddolls are somewhere in the pile, so we'll get to them eventually. With Madolches, in the beginning, I really did enjoy the deck concept of shuffling back to your own advantage. Tried as my hardest to use putting Cess in the deck, but just didn't work out. But still, with Angeli, the deck is seeing some pretty awesome competitive play, and I think it still has potential in this format, even though you don't hear too often from it. But like I said, use it every so often. I think it's my number 2 deck after Shaddolls that I use at locals now, just to keep up with the meta. Let's go ahead and get on to the Wild and Free box. We'll see what's in there. My Baby Raccoons. This was like a pretty budget deck at the time, when people were suggesting, hey, you should build Baby Raccoons with Obedient School. They're pretty busted. And I thought, why not? I had most of the stuff available at the time, and I did enjoy the different moves you can use. Number 64 is incredibly broken, so I just got a kick out of all the different things I could do with that deck. We're keeping on moving. I didn't realize I had these many decks. They really pile up after so long. This one deck, I've tried my hardest just to revive it after the Rekindling hit. Laval's, maybe one day they'll come back. Like I said, 1 Rekindling and 1 Soul Charge really hurts the deck, but I used to have a lot of fun. This was probably one of the most played decks I've used at locals, just because it was consistent, got Quasar out a lot, and your opponent really couldn't do anything afterwards. Up next we have my Fabled deck. I always was a fan of the different kinds of hidden arsenal decks. Fabled's one of the earlier ones, along with Naturia's. This deck basically allowed for a lot of discard plays, special summons, which I enjoyed, being able to get synchro summons off. And they had a lot of different unique ones, including the Fabled Unicorn, the Fabled Gudabi, and a lot of higher up ones as well, which made the deck a lot of fun. I think this is my Shaddol deck. Yep, that is correct. We start off with a Mathematician, but like I said, this deck was recently shuffled for a tournament. Like I said, I just like to have at least one meta deck when I have to go up against those big competitions, and I really like Shaddolls. Didn't really see me as a Satellar Knight player. Yang Zings are up there. I do use them sometimes, but Shaddolls at the moment are probably one of my favorites. I get a lot of plays off of the deck, and like I said, they just have a lot of different play styles that keep the deck interesting. Let's get on to another double deck box. I think in this one, behind the extra deck, this is one I take to locals often too. We have Evil Swarms, pretty generic deck. Get out Ophion. I just like the fact, like I said in many times before, that it was a dual terminal set. So I got the deck built earlier on before the Hidden Arsenal came out, which I thought was fun because my locals really didn't fret about, legalization of dual terminal cards beforehand. So I played that plenty of times before it was officially released. And I also have my Fire Fist deck. I was in love with the 3-axis. I think I played the full 3 spirits once at locals, and then it got hit on the ban list. And I think I actually got first place at locals that day when I used the deck. But 1 week later, I was sad because I had to go to 1 spirit, and spirit is still at 1. So maybe one day we'll see it come off the list permanently. We're getting at the bigger double Ultra Pro. I think those are just dual terminal cards here. I have 1 deck in here, my Harpy deck. Probably played this after the Lavos were hit. I enjoyed the rank 4, rank 7 plays that this deck had to offer. It really helped fill the void of Lavos because I really didn't know what to build afterwards as a deck, and that deck saw a lot of play by a lot of people. Not so much now, but maybe down the line it will some more. In this deck box we have my Prophecy deck. This is probably one of the decks I've built the most. I can say I've probably built this deck at least 4 times, and this is probably the longest I've held onto this deck. Every time I made the deck, I would either trade it or sell it for other cards. But maybe I'll hold on to this one permanently for now, or, if a friend of mine wants it, be glad to trade it to them. We're narrowing down. We've got a couple decks left. This is my Gishki Heretic deck. I love the whole concept of tributing monsters for the Gishkis, using the Heretic monsters to get off consistent rank 6 plays, along with a couple ritual summons, and I closed the deck box forgetting about another deck. My Gusto deck. I have been considering, maybe trading this one off to a friend because Spirit Tamers are coming out, and those seem like to be a lot of fun, and the evolution of Gustos, so I figure, pass on the old deck, get into the new, but we'll see when February comes around. And the last deck box, we have 3 decks. We have my Watt family deck, the mix of Watts and Hunters. When Shockmaster was a thing, this was another deck I played a lot. Hopefully you'll see some more play if Shockmaster ever comes off. And we got 2 decks in here. We have my Karibo deck. I showed a deck profile of this a little while ago. This is mostly a fun deck. If you can get level 10 off, you really don't want to see the face on your opponent after you make that successful play. A friend of mine used it at locals once. They were playing Karakuris against the guy. He did a huge play where he had like 2 berets out and a bunch of other things, and he attacks into Wing Karibo. He activates Transcendent Wings, destroys all of his monsters, and that actually got him the game. Like I said, the dude was shocked because he completely forgot about that play. And the last deck is my Lancer Frog deck. I tried this deck out. I've been holding on to this deck, probably hoping to sell it or just trade it off to someone because I think they're fun. I just completely forget the plays you can do with the deck, and it really messes me up. I can play a lot of these decks, but for some reason Lancer Frogs is one I cannot grasp. Well, that's it for the video, and a look at all the decks I currently own. I'm sure down the road I'll do an update of this video because I'll have new decks in my arsenal, old ones gone. But hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and Kiratwig2 out.